Reverend Rainbow, come on up. She's our guest speaker today. She is from Atlanta, Georgia originally, and she grew up in New Thought Teachings. She's been a licensed spiritual practitioner for 12 years. She's a certified spiritual counselor, and she was the founding director of Youth and Family Ministries at Bodhi Center in Chicago. In 2016, she completed her ministerial studies, and she served with Emerson Theological Institute, and she served most recently as a full-time staff minister at the Bodhi Center. She's also the creator of Affirmaware, affirmation apparel, which is in the social hall, in the foyer. You can get it after service. And also CDs by Heather will be in the service. Let's just rub our hands together and welcome. Come around here. Welcome, Reverend Rainbow. Repeat after me. Reverend Rainbow. We welcome you. We bless you. We open our hearts and minds to you and to your message today. We thank you for being here. God bless you. It's all yours.
Thank you. So grateful to be here in sunny Arizona. Greetings from Chicago and my practitioner colleague, Damana, who I know spent some time here. So she sends her love today, and I know we have a number of friends watching online as well from Chicago. So grateful to be here and to be sharing with you all this day. So at the end of November, my wife Heather and I and our 3-year-old daughter decided to step out on faith. And here we are on this mobile ministry tour. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about that journey today with my topic of the abundance of less. And really embracing this idea of intentional living as an avenue for experiencing great abundance and freedom and peace. So at the end of November, we made a decision that I decided to leave my position at Bodhi, that there was this call stirring within me, that it was time for me to step into greater leadership. And it was time for a change. So we left our apartment in Chicago, and we didn't move into a new one. We packed up our stuff such that really embracing this idea of what some may call minimalism or simple living or intentional living. So as we were packing up, we didn't simply just go through the process of putting our things in boxes and putting them into storage and moving on to the next thing. We were very intentional about what we want to create with our life. It was that opportunity of a clean slate, a new beginning, and really asking with every item we go through, does this bring me joy? How does this fit in alignment with my values of what we want to create in our life? So we went through this process, and I, got a little obsessive about watching the minimalism movie on Netflix. I highly recommend it. Listening to podcasts, blogs, books on tape, all of this, really embracing this idea of minimalism, because I've always kind of had this secret yearning to live this minimalistic lifestyle. But I had this belief, because my wife Heather loves things, and that gifts are her love language, so stuff brings her a lot of joy. So I had this belief that somehow I couldn't really be a minimalism because Heather loves her things. And then I realized that that was outsourcing my good, that was simply a limiting belief that was stopping me from doing something that I desired. And really, it's not true. It was an excuse. So I said, I had this realization. I was like, Rainbow, start with your own closet. Literally. So I started with my own closet, and I opened my closet. It's full with stuff. So here I'm saying I want to be this thing, but I'm not even taking any action towards it because I have this belief and this excuse that I'm projecting on Heather that she's the reason why I'm not doing what I want to do. Anyone get that? So I literally started with my own closet, and I did this 10 by 10 challenge. So this thing that was going around Instagram, the idea is that you pick 10 items of clothing, shoes optional. I chose not to do shoes. 10 items of clothing that you wear for 10 days. Mix and match, and really this capsule wardrobe, simple clothing that can go together. And what I discovered as I started this practice, this challenge, this 10-day challenge, is that it really has nothing to do with clothes. it opened my eyes to such beliefs of lack and limitation that our clothes and these things in the world of form can be an example of. And what I mean by that is I noticed that I started thinking, well, will I have enough? I started projecting into the future, and I found myself wanting to lay out my clothes and plan out and make sure that if I chose these 10 things that I could have 10 outfits, that it wouldn't look like I'm wearing the same thing every day. And then I realized, just trust, Rainbow. It's 10 days of your life, and it's clothes. You know? So I embraced this journey first with my closet, and then as we started to pack up to move, really looking at everything, and I went through, 5 boxes of paper that I was able to either take pictures and digitalize or shred and realize I no longer needed. And I really love, Reverend Sherry, I was listening to your message, I think it was maybe a couple weeks ago, about the baggage, right? And you shared the story about moving into storage, and there was this bag of trash, a literal bag of trash that she moved. And I totally get it. And so I was like, okay, this is not going to be a mindless, really quick, we have, made this decision, we have to move kind of thing. This is an intentional process of going through and deciding what we need and what we really want to keep in our life. And what I realized is there is such freedom and abundance in less. It seems somewhat paradoxical to think that there's this infinite source of the universe that is pure abundance, and by leaving a job and not having a permanent address, that somehow those things will equate a greater sense of abundance and freedom and peace, yet that is exactly what we have experienced over the past few months. So we're going to break this down a little bit, and we're going to see how this idea of living intentionally really matches the spiritual principle of prosperity and abundance, and look for what that key is for that freedom and abundance. And to me, it really, if there was anything today that you walk away with, it's the idea that there is no lack. Lack is simply a human condition that we make up. That in reality, infinite source, supply, the very nature of the universe is infinite, and it is always giving of itself unto us. And yet, we experience lack. We can see lack in the world of form, yes? There's people that are hungry that don't have clothes. There are people in our own lives where we might feel like we want something and we don't have enough. So this idea of not enoughness, of lack, is definitely a real experience in the world of form. So I'm not denying, I'm not living in some fairy tale land here. But what I want you to get, that lack in the true reality with the capital R of the universe is not real. God knows no lack. And yet, what God does is express through us. So God gets to know itself more fully by expressing through us. We are that vessel. We are that channel. And yet it goes through this kind of filtration system of our own mind, of our own consciousness. That is the creative process. That is the symbol here. Spirit coming into form, it must work through our mind. So where does lack live? In our own mind. And in those subconscious beliefs of doubt, of not enough. So when we look to outsource our good somehow to a job or a thing or a person or any of these other things that we can place our good on, we are out of integrity with the truth of life. And therefore we will experience lack. Because we can never get something out there because it's already right here. Everything we need and desire is right here within us. It is the very essence, the very truth of who we are. I like to think of abundance of good as this waterfall, this beautiful waterfall that's just flowing. God is always giving itself unto itself. Flow, flow, flow. Are we going to stand under that waterfall with a little teacup? Or are we going to stand under that waterfall with arms open wide saying, yes, God, use me? How willing are you to receive the good that is flowing through your life? And again, it all starts right here in our own mind. Eric Butterworth says, "The goal should not be to make money or acquire things, but to achieve the consciousness through which the substance will flow forth when and as you need it." So what if you were to trust that everything you need and desire is there as you need and desire it? And it doesn't mean to make things or money bad. I don't want you to hear this as an either-or conversation because, again, that's separation, that's lack consciousness. What I'm saying is the universe is infinite. And as we get in alignment by not focusing on things out there, but focusing right here on our own worthiness, our own wholeness, it will just unfold perfectly as we need it to unfold. That has been the experience of this journey so far. So we packed up our stuff into November, and we've been on the road now. We spent a couple weeks with Heather's family in Michigan, really connecting with family and connecting with nature. And then we hit the road the end of December, and we've been going from town to town, staying with friends and family, and really having this rich experience of life, of living in the moment for the past month or 6 weeks or so. And what I've learned so far on this journey, that by embracing living intentionally, these principles, this tool of minimalism, so to speak, is to really live more fully in the moment. I'm getting to live my passion by sharing as I'm doing today. I'm getting to experience true freedom, and I've noticed it's like I left my carries and worries behind. They're dissolved back to the nothingness as I truly trust God as my source. Day by day, we're living gig by gig, so to speak, and having so many rich experiences, so many opportunities for God to show up as individuals in our life, to play with, to give, to receive, to be in that flow of life. So much good. Everything we need or desire, the path has unfolded perfectly on this journey. And I've realized how little I need in order to experience a lot. And how truly rich and prosperous I am by deciding and knowing that God is my source. So I'm not saying you have to quit your job and go on some, great adventure. Map this onto your own life. Where is an area of your life that you would like to experience more good, that you would like to experience more flow? What is something that you would like to have a greater experience of in your life? And how can you apply this idea of trusting and knowing God as your source to allow it to flow forth through you? It's not about making anything happen. It's about being that vessel to receive. And so I've had so many great experiences of just deep connection. So one of the key ideas of embracing an intentional life is these two questions have been the kind of guide for my life here. It's, what do you value most? And does your time and energy match that? So when I really reflected on that, I realized I was out of integrity. One of my key values is connection. And what connection means to me is really being in that flow. So it's connection with myself, it's connection with spirit, it's connection with nature, with family, with friends. So when I asked, does my time and energy match that, I realized I was out of integrity because I was in this kind of go, 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 do mentality. The drive of the city, the rat race of working hard and trying to prove something someday, somewhere. And I realized that it was this picture out here of what life should be, as opposed to turning within and realizing the life that's already right here. The good that's already right here, that's just wanting to be expressed. So when I ask, what do I value most? And this idea of connection comes through, this idea of spiritual growth and experience of life, and does my time and energy match it? I realized I had to make some changes in my life. And I tend to be the kind of person that does these drastic, like, I'm all in, we're going to go for this. And I have a partner that, see, she just took a deep breath. She keeps me grounded. We're a good balance. And yet is willing to be completely supportive and also to trust. This wouldn't have been her first choice to do. And at the same time, we found that agreement because what we knew and could sense and feel is that this is definitely guided by source, by life, that this is ours to do and to discover. So many gifts to discover in living a life of intentionality. So I just want to get clear a little bit on kind of what minimalism, what intentionality is and what it isn't. So by definition, the minimalists, who are featured in this documentary on Netflix, they say minimalism is a tool to rid yourself of life's excess in favor of focusing on what's important so you can find happiness, fulfillment, and freedom. I'd say that's something we could all say yes to, yeah? We all want more happiness and fulfillment and freedom in our life. And so again, it's not about getting rid of all your things. It's simply being intentional about what you own and why, what you put your energy and attention towards, what perhaps is taking your time and energy, your mental space that no longer serves, such that you can get in alignment with what you desire. And there's where the freedom lives. And I love this idea of minimalism as a mindset. It's a great metaphor for not only things in your life that don't serve, but beliefs in your life that no longer serve you. I know we all have a few of those. Some of us may have more or less physical baggage, but we all have those beliefs that if we really were to pay attention, to be intentional, and notice what our thoughts are in every moment, and then ask, does this serve me or not? Is this in alignment with my highest good? How does this match what I truly desire for my life? By doing that introspective process, then we can begin to transform and shift into greater alignment and harmony with what we desire. So for me, one of the beliefs I discovered that was holding me back on this kind of like catch-22 trap was either I felt like I had the time to travel and do what I love because I wasn't working as much, or I was working really hard and then I had the money to travel. But yet when I had the time, I didn't have the money. And when I had the money, I didn't have the time. Anyone get that? It's a trap and it's a belief. And so I realized, I was like, something's here is not working. And I know that there's something more for me to experience, that I can choose to have a different experience in which I can travel and connect with nature and have fun and share my gifts and talents in the world and be infinitely sourced and supplied. So for me, it took shaking everything up, everything that the world says you need, a job, a home, letting all that go and being open to a new possibility. And it truly was just like this divine guidance that came through. And I just immediately started getting into action. I started taking action. I started reaching out and saying, hey, we can go anywhere we want. What do we want to do? So we're like, let's go visit this friend. Let's call them. Let's go there. Oh, let's speak here. Let's go on this journey. And let's take this time, this kind of gap experience, to decide where we want to land, what our next experience is going to be, what community we want to serve, and what's the best fit for our family. So it's not being at the effect of life, but it's being intentional around what we want to create. This is the way life works. Eric Butterworth says, build on the awareness of ever-present substance and expand your faith in the stability in your ever-present wholeness. Things will come at the expanse of your wholeness, not at its expense. I love that. So things will come at the expanse of your wholeness, not at its expense. So things come to you as you realize that you are truly whole, perfect, and complete. Things come in that flow. You can step into that waterfall and open your eyes wide and say, yes, God, use me. I am ready. Because you know that you're whole, perfect, and complete, and everything you desire is right here, right now. And then when you start to bump up against the things in life, when you start to have those doubts and fears, perhaps your own, or they're maybe being voiced by the opinions of other people in your life. We certainly had some of that. Folks saying, what are you doing? You have a 3-year-old. You have a good job, a nice home right on the lake in Chicago. You're leaving all of that? What are you doing? To breathe and to realize that people are simply just a reflection of their own consciousness. And since we are all one, a mirror for me to evaluate, okay, where is that in me? Where's that lack? There's some more to transform. There's some more fear, doubt to let go of. And the first step is to recognize it, to not be afraid to embrace the lack and the doubt thoughts that come up in order to transform them. So not holding on to them so that they become a mindset and a belief system, not holding on to those doubts such that it becomes a mood, but allowing yourself to recognize what's happening, to breathe, and say, oh, that's just lack. That's just fear. And as we name it, it becomes outside of us here. It no longer becomes right here as this intimate experience. And as we can name it and just call it for what it is, lack, doubt, fear, we create space between us and that. And in that moment, we can breathe into the realization of the truth of who we are. And that is how we transform those limiting beliefs. And then not only do we affirm the truth, we must take action. We must take action towards our desires such that we can prove our faith and live in alignment with who we are truly here to be. So faith and action. I've been reading some Eric Butterworth, as you can tell here. I chose that opening reading too. I just love it. So here's another one. Eric Butterworth. Yes, God will supply every need if we open our minds in an enthusiastic desire to give. So here we're going to talk a little bit about that flow, that reciprocal nature. So it's not just about receiving, it's about giving and being in the flow. So God will supply every need if we open our minds in an enthusiastic desire to give. Ideas, plans, forms will come easily and flow freely, putting words in our mouths, directing our hands, moving our feet in the way we should go. All that is required is that we keep in the flow, keep open in mind and heart by positive thoughts and creative faith, and that we keep moving in the direction of our dreams. We must transform our limiting beliefs by doing the work in consciousness in our mind and then stepping out in faith to prove God in our life and actually experience the manifestations, the demonstrations that we desire. There was a famous tightrope walker named Charles Blondin back in 1863. He was most famous for doing the tightrope across Niagara Falls. So he was a true showman. So this particular day, thousands of people have gathered to watch him do this tightrope across Niagara Falls. So he goes, he has his little thing, and he does the tightrope across. The crowd roars and cheers. He turns around, he goes back again. And then this time he wants to switch it up a little bit, have a little fun, so he gets in a bag, and he does a tightrope in the bag. And then he gets a little portable stove thing, and he puts it on his back, and he goes across. He stops in the middle, places it down, pulls out an egg in his pocket, heats it up, makes a little omelet just right there over Niagara Falls in the middle of this 1-inch wire of a tightrope. The story goes that a ship was coming underneath, gathered, filled with people watching from below as they were above, and he makes the omelet and then flips it down to someone on the boat. So a true showman here. So the crowd's roaring, and what has occurred over watching this man do this tightrope a few times is that they have truly built their faith in his ability to cross the tightrope. So then he goes across with a wheelbarrow, and he loads it up with bricks, and he balances it, and he gets across successfully. Again, the crowd roars. He takes out the bricks. He looks at this crowd that is so inspired by what he's doing, and he says, "Who wants to get in?" There's no takers. So see, there's a difference between faith and trust. We can have faith in something, but we must prove our trust by taking action. So, what is that wheelbarrow in your life that you can step into to prove your faith? That is the journey we've been on, and we will continue to be on for a couple more months or until Spirit guides us and says, this is your right and perfect home, and we say yes, and we are ready to embrace that next journey. But for now, we're staying in that wheelbarrow, taking step by step living simply, living intentionally, noticing, as those doubts and fears perhaps come up, challenging them, breathing. What has been the number one tool to help me in this experience is breath and staying in the moment. When that, not even necessarily fear, but when I start to let myself go towards, well, is this the right place? Do we want to live here? What about this? And start making the list and the pros and the cons. I'm very much in my head and no longer in the moment. And then that's when everything kind of starts to feel a little wobbly, yeah? And then I can just say, you know what? I don't have to figure this out right now. Right now, I'm to be present. I have my 3-year-old that is constantly entertaining us. I have the beauty here that we've got to experience this week or so that we've been here with the hiking and the nature. We saw the wild horses out in wherever we were, somewhere nearby. I can't keep up. Yes, we went to the Grand Canyon. We saw elk. I saw a bald eagle. I mean, we are having such a journey of being present. So I allow that breath to bring me back to the present moment, to stop the kind of mental chatter and know that right here, right now, everything I need and desire is available. I simply have to have eyes to see it. Ernest Holmes says, "It is the nature of the universe to give us what we are able to take. It cannot give us more. It has given all. We have not yet accepted the greater gift." So the universe is giving us all, and imagine all that you have and all that the universe is giving, yet there's still a greater gift that we have not yet accepted. So what if you were to say yes right here, right now, to living your life to the fullest, to be open to that greater gift that God has for you by being that vessel to allow Spirit to use you, and to be willing to have the eyes to see it. See, God can only give to you what you are willing to perceive, what your consciousness is able to accept through your belief system. Because simply life is just a projection of your own perception. I was talking to my mom the other day, and she was sharing a story about how she's in Chicago still, and she was taking an Uber ride. You all have Uber? Basically, it's like a taxi. And she was taking an Uber ride and with a friend, and she gets there, and she was just thinking, oh, what a fun ride, and I've never been through this part of town before, and he was so friendly, and it was just so exciting. She gets out, and her friend's like, I would not tip them. And she was like, oh, why? She was like, they were weaving in and out and honking and da-da-da. And my mom was like, I realized in that moment, two people can literally have the exact same circumstance. She's like, we were in the same car, but I was thinking, what a thrilling, exciting adventure, and my friend was scared to death. It's up to you. You get to decide. Life is always filtering through your own belief system, and how do you choose to see it? How do you choose to see it? So final quote here from Eric Butterworth. I love his definition of faith. He says, faith is consciousness centered in the universal source. So again, it comes back to that breath, that being in the now moment. So when you notice your mind, the fear, the doubt coming up, in order to have faith, you simply center your consciousness in the divine source of life. To remember that wellspring of good, that waterfall of good that is always available. Get your mind right. Center yourself. And in that moment, you can transform whatever fear or doubt may be living in your consciousness. And not only are you doing this work for yourself, you're doing this work on behalf of the collective, for there is truly only one mind. We are all connected. These beliefs that I'm talking about that you need to transform, this middle part of this beautiful creative process, this symbol right here, in that middle part are all beliefs held in mind by all of humankind. So when you think of that, you can think about how when you change your mind, you shift a belief, you transform lack in your life, it expands out to the greater field of oneness so that others may have a greater experience of life as well. We're raising the vibration. We're raising the consciousness of what can be possible by transforming the collective. this work is all interconnected, so lest we ever think that it is simply about us, we remember we are one with all of life, and Source is simply seeking to experience itself more fully as me, as you, if you're willing to say yes, to receive your good, and to get into that flow of giving and receiving, of giving and receiving. You know, when you give a gift, you have to open your hand in order for the person to take the gift. And as you give and you open your hand and they take the gift, what's left? An empty hand, such that you are now that vessel to receive. Giving and receiving. Giving and receiving. So what I know for myself is that I'm going to keep breathing. I'm going to stay in the moment. I'm going to trust God as my source, and I'm going to repeat in any moment when there's any doubt that truly there is no lack. And I invite you to do the same. Map this onto your life. See where you are ready to transform and live a more abundant life. So let us take this into prayer. So what I know right here, right now, is that God is the infinite source, substance, and supply of all that there is. That there is only one life. That this life is good. There is only one life. This life is freedom. This life is abundance. This life is peace. And I know that this is who I am. That I am one with this source, this energy, this life, that it is having its way right here, right now, as my life, as peace, as freedom, as abundance. And as I know this to be true for myself, I know this must be true for each and every one of us, for everyone who is hearing my words right here, right now, in the infinite time and space of life, that there is a recognition of oneness, that there is only freedom, there is only peace, there is only love. And it's from this place of oneness now that I speak this word, knowing that abundance truly is our birthright. Knowing that as I say yes to life, that I open to allow Spirit to have its way more fully through me, as it only can, uniquely in my life. That I remain that open channel for Spirit to use me, to live intentionally in alignment with my values. That all that my heart's desire is right here, right now. So as I say yes to this wholeness, to this freedom, to this love, I step out in faith, proving that God is my source, being that open vessel and allowing God to use me right here, right now. I know that lack is no thing, that truly there is no lack. So any fear or doubt or old beliefs in lack dissolves back to the nothingness from which it came. As I stand firmly in the truth that right here, right now, God is, source is, supply is, and it is who I am. So I'm so grateful to speak this word right here, right now. So grateful to know that this abundance is overflowing in my life, and I have the eyes to see it. So grateful for the fulfillment of this word as I release this into the action of the law that always says yes, 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 my beloved, it is done. It is so. And with great gratitude, together we say, and so it is.